Hi, I'm Midge Shoemaker, and this is week 21 of my doing 100 weeks of YouTube videos and creating a healthier, happier lifestyle for myself, or attempting to anyway. So this has been kind of an interesting week for me, to say the least. I had a lot of things going on, plus I managed to get myself a cold, which is super annoying. So I it was a struggle for me. I had a lot of positive things happen this week, and a lot of not so positive things, I guess. Um, that's not the right terminology, but I had a lot of positive things happen, and then I had a lot of negative thoughts in my head that I'm still struggling to overcome. But I'm working on it. So that would be this week in a nutshell. But basically, I'm going to start with my finances because that sucked. I was doing really great last week and I had a whole bunch of money, and I had the money to go get the lab work done I needed to see my doctor, and was going to try to make extra money so I could pay all of my bills and pay my doctor and all of that. And I ended up not working all week. I worked Saturday. I did not work the rest of the week because I just didn't feel very good. Um, and I was trying to take care of myself. So I was kind of torn between the do I take care of myself or do I go to work? Because I know I can push myself and I can work anyway, but I also know that, if I get a cold, it's probably going to last 1 to 2, well, it's going to last about 2 weeks. If I try to push myself and work when I'm not feeling good, it'll probably last like 3 to 4 weeks because it's just how my body is. It's like it just doesn't. I know some people, it's like they work and then their body just chills itself when they exercise and do work, and I do that and my body's like, oh my gosh, what were you thinking? And then I feel 10 times worse. So I still did stuff in spite of my cold. I still made myself go places and do things because I basically woke up on Saturday with kind of a dry, scratchy throat. I thought, oh, this isn't good. But I promised my friend, my sponsor friend, that I would take her to the ward Christmas party that we were having. So we went to the Christmas party, and that was fun. Had a nice little breakfast, whatever, and it was awesome because they had breakfast burritos, but I was like, great, I'm not sure what I can eat here. And they actually had some with no cheese, no dairy. They're like dairy free, and I'm like, yes, I get one of those. So I don't think those were the most popular ones that they had, but hey, I'll take it. Uh, so that was nice, and it was nice to kind of see my friend be excited and to talk to people and be somewhere that was familiar to her, not familiar to me, but familiar to her. So that was cool. So that was fun. And then, of course, I went to work and I went grocery shopping, and then I came home and crashed. And then I got up the next day and I went to church, and I was like, where's my brain? But I went anyway because I knew that I was being released and I thought it would be a good idea to go. So I went. Um, and at that point, I mean, I had started coughing a little bit of a runny nose, but it wasn't like horrible. It's not been a horrible bad cough. It's just been annoying, is what it is. Because it's like I'll get up and I'll move around for a little bit, or I'll sit up and I'm like, okay, I feel good, and then I lay down to go to sleep and I start coughing. It's like, oh, now I can't sleep because I really can't sleep sitting up. I don't know how some people do that. But the rest of the time, it seems to be okay as long as I'm drinking tons of water and other things. So I just tried to take it easy. I didn't go to family dinner or anything like that, although I did go to my 12-step meeting on Sunday because I already told my sponsor friend that I would take her, and I'm like, what am I going to commit to all of these things for? But I also have this underlying concept idea in the back of my brain. I don't know how true it is or not, but I think it is. I think that when I ask Heavenly Father to help me, to bless me, to give me the extra strength and energy to do stuff during the week, that when it comes to the weekend and going to church or doing spiritual commitments and things, personal commitments that I have made with friends or with God, that I need to keep those as well. Because if I want Heavenly Father to continue to bless me during the week, I need to go and keep those commandments and go to church and do those other things, which is why I push myself to do that, because I'm like, this is where I know I'm supposed to be. And if I can, if God's going to bless me to do it so I can go to work and do other stuff that I want to do in my life, some of which I need to do in order to pay bills, but that I want to do, then I need to show my gratitude and I need to push myself to go when it comes to like church and other things. Although I'm sure other people, if I gave them my cold, don't appreciate that very much. So I hope I didn't give them my cold. I wasn't coughing on anybody. I made sure of that. Drinking tons of water. So trying to keep my distance a little bit there. But I just, felt like it was something I needed to do, to just feel spiritually buoyed up, like I was still on the right track, and that I can continue to ask God to help me with stuff during the week because I was keeping my spiritual commitments. Maybe that sounds crazy to some of you out there, but that's where my brain goes. That's what I think, because I'm like, oh, yay, it's Sunday. I could just stay home and be sick and do nothing. But it's like, but I have these spiritual commitments, emotional commitments that I have made, and God has blessed me to keep my temporal ones. To give me the strength and energy to keep my temporal things, I need to show that gratitude and also get the extra blessings for, keeping the spiritual ones. So sometimes I do that. And then of course so I went and I took my friend. I hope I didn't get her sick. I haven't talked to her all week. But I took her to my 12-step meeting where I got to socialize and be around people I hadn't seen in a while. Of course, we all sat separated, whatever distance. And I ended up leading the meeting, which I wasn't expecting. So that was kind of cool. And I'm like, oh, and went to do something that we normally do. Like, oh, we don't do that since, I was like, oh, we don't do that anymore. Okay, it's been a while since I've been to a meeting. I don't know what we do anymore. So, but I got to learn, so that was fun. And then, of course, I brought her home to watch the First Presidency Christmas message, which was awesome and amazing, and I'm grateful I got to do that as well. So, that was, some spiritual and social stuff kind of all rolled into one that I was doing this week. And then physically, I was just trying to take care of myself, taking some apple cider vinegar, drinking lots of hot honey water, drinking lots of fluid, buying apple juice and orange juice, and drinking fluids. So that was something that is very good for me to be doing, is drinking fluids. So to try to stay hydrated and to get myself feeling better. So that's kind of what spent the week doing. I did get ready to go to work on Monday. It was kind of late at night by the time I had the energy and was willing to go. And I got as far as like the store or the gas station, went inside and I bought some juice. I put gas in my car and I was like, and I'm going home. I'm just not going to work tonight. And I probably could have pushed myself to do that, and I didn't. But I am grateful that I had the extra money from the week before to cover, to get my lab work done and to see the doctor on Friday. And since this video is supposed to be from Friday, I guess I can go over my doctor visit. Didn't entirely make a whole lot of sense. I wish that, anyway. I wish that they would go over the results, like test results, a little bit better, because I did all that blood work and then she's just spouting off a bunch of numbers to me for each whatever. And then she's like, from the looks of this, you took this back in October and you had this going on. And I'm like, I took the test like 2 days ago when I still had my cold. And she was like, oh, that makes so much more sense now. And I'm like, yes, it does. And she's like, oh yeah, I see here the test date, but it had. So the date in her computer that she was going off of was the day that I saw her previously, and that was the day that she ordered the lab work, not the day that I actually did the lab work. So I wasn't sure how much my cold would affect my lab work results, but as far as I could tell, it's only something. It only made my white blood cell count high because my body's clearly fighting off a cold, which I told her I had a cold. And I even tried calling the doctor's office and saying, hey, I have a cold. Can I reschedule this? Because I didn't want to have to pay for the visit. And they're like, oh, no, just as long as it's just a cold, just wear a mask and you're good. And I'm like, oh, darn it. No reason to get out of a doctor's appointment. I'm like, seriously? They're not going to give me anything for a cold. It's just a cold. They're like, okay, are you sure it's not COVID? I'm like, yeah, it's not. I'm good. They're like, okay, it's just a cold. Just wear a mask. You're good. I'm like, all right. So I had to go to my doctor appointment, and my blood pressure was actually lower when they did the cuff on my arm than when I do it on my wrist. So I was like, cool, that's even better. And then she's like, are you doing this the same time every day? And I'm like, nope. I tried to in the beginning, but it just didn't work out that way. So she's like, you need to try to do this the same time every day and this, that, or whatever. And then she's like, do you need a refill on your medication? And I was like, nope, but I'm really bad. And I didn't tell her that I'm not actually taking my medication. For those of you that take blood blood pressure medication or other medication your doctor's prescribed to you. As long as you feel like that's what you need to do for you, please do that. Don't necessarily follow my example in not doing it. It's just, I feel like we all know our bodies best, and we need to do what we feel is best for our bodies, or get second opinions on things. And I kind of feel like my blood pressure was really high because I was just stressed, a lot of anxiety, and because of the blood thinners that I was on. And I have noticed that when I drink a lot of water and I stay hydrated, that bottom number actually goes down. It's like in the 80s or 90s, like low 90s, high 80s, which is still a little bit high, but it's not like, it's not over 100 like it was in the doctor's office. So it's actually coming down just by hydrating and drinking water. And when I was in the doctor's office, it was like 133/80. So it was 80, which is where it's supposed to be. So I'm like, okay, the 133 is a little bit high. But again, I've noticed as I've started to exercise, which I haven't done consistently, but when I'm exercising, one, I have a little bit more energy, and two, that top number comes down. And that top number was like 166 when they put me on the blood pressure medication. So, like I said, for me, I just feel like there were other factors that was causing my blood pressure to be that high. And as I'm taking care of the other things, if I'm no longer on the blood thinners and all that other stuff, that I don't feel like I need the blood pressure medication. So I haven't been taking it. I just didn't tell my doctor that I'm not taking it. Plus, she gave me a 90-day supply plus 3 refills. So I'm like, I have a year's worth of blood pressure medication if I want to take it, or if my blood pressure gets out of control and I need to take it. So I'm not really worried about it. I have it if something happens and I need to start taking it. But I'm still going to go with like testing out my body and trying to figure out if I can take care of myself, because I need to be healthier. I really do. And I feel as though I get healthier, that I will be happier. And exercising kind of, gives me those endorphins and helps me feel a little bit happier. So didn't exercise this week, obviously, because of my cold. Didn't do a lot of those things. But just putting it out there for anybody that's watching these videos of me and my stubbornly refusing to do things, that it's not necessarily because I'm stubbornly refusing to do things. It's just because I'm trying to listen to myself and listen to my body and listen to what God wants for me to do, and knowing that there are things that I can do without having to be on medication to solve the problem. And so I'm not ready to just take the medication. Now, if I tried everything else and nothing is working, then obviously I'm going to take the medication. But other things obviously work. So as long as I do the other things, then I don't need the medication. But that's just for me. You need to figure out what works for you. I don't necessarily want to be the bad example or black sheep. I am a little concerned about the cholesterol numbers. She did mention that I did the cardiac calcium test, and I think she said it was like 85, and that was a little bit high. They want it to be below 80. I have no idea what that means. And maybe it was some other number she said that was like 85 and they want it to be below 80, but I still have no idea what number that is or what that means. And I wish that she'd like written it down, or she'd like showed it to me on her screen, or something that made sense to me, because I have no idea at this point what number was a little bit high and how to get it down. And I looked at the test results online. I came home and looked at them online. I'm like, what the heck is this? And tried to look at them, and they have some little explanations, and I could not find one that was 85. So I was like, that must have been the cardiac calcium test, because I can't find it on the other, like the lipid panel and all the other stuff. But I was surprised and very grateful that I am still pre-diabetic. I know that may sound silly, but I'm like, it's been 3 years, I think, maybe 4, since I was tested before, and I've gained 30 pounds since then, and I was pre-diabetic, and my numbers for being pre-diabetic are still the same. They're like just under being diabetic, but I'm still pre-diabetic. So I'm like, I haven't crossed over that one yet. I don't want there to be a yet. I don't want to cross over that one. Another reason to work on exercising and changing my diet to be healthier, so that I don't end up having to be diabetic. I don't end up having to prick my finger. I don't end up having to do all of those things just by changing what my lifestyle is. But it has to be, I know it has to be a permanent change. It has to be for the rest of my life change, because otherwise all of these problems that I have will come back. The one thing I was concerned about, and I am still very concerned about at this point is my cholesterol, because I have known for years that it's been borderline, like the top number is 205 and it's supposed to be under 200, and the bottom number is like in the teens and it's supposed to be like in the 20s or 30s. So the good cholesterol is supposed to be in the 20s or 30s, and mine is like in the teens, like 16 or 17. And the top number is supposed to be under 200. Like I think they want it to be like 185 or something, and it's like always been 205, but they're like, around 200, but like, oh, it's just borderline high, we're not going to worry about it. Well, my good cholesterol is still in the teens, but my bad cholesterol is now at 225, which I think the test when I looked at it online said 227, but the nurse practitioner that I saw said 225. So I was like, either way, that's not okay. That's a really bad number. So she gave me a prescription for cholesterol medication. So I'm just like, I'm a little freaking out about that one. Also, don't really have money to go get that prescription filled right now, so I'm going to have to wait and see what happens, because I just did not work. I still, after my doctor appointment Friday, did not go to work. So not happening. I do have more information on that. I just don't know if I should save it for week 22 or if I should just share it now. I'm just going to share it now because I'm thinking about it, and then I'll just have to come up with something else for week 22. But basically, I texted my my mentor, Betsy Love, because she had somebody that helped her, nutritionist, and she said, just look on my Facebook friends and you'll find this name, the nutritionist that you can contact. So I contacted him, and it took him all weekend. Well, yeah, I think I messaged him Friday or Saturday, and of course he messaged me back on Sunday, so I'll give you more information on Monday, and he waited until like Monday night to tell me anything. And then of course, in order to get the information, he was like, what, for diabetes, like this whole diet plan thing. And of course he's like, this isn't an overnight fix, this is a, change your diet, these are like, we'll give you healthy recipes and things like that, a support group, community, whatever that you can, but it's still your choice what you want to do with it. I'm like, cool, awesome. And I'm like, and what do you do for cholesterol? Because the nurse practitioner said that you can lower your cholesterol with diet and exercise, but it's really hard to lower your cholesterol with diet and exercise. So I'm like, I don't know how really hard that is, but I'm willing to put forth the effort. And I feel like this is giving me the added motivation that I need to make changes in my lifestyle, because I am not living a healthy lifestyle, and it is messing with me mentally and making me depressed or feeding my depression, which makes me not feel like I'm happy, and I don't seem to enjoy my life as much as I would like to, especially when I can look around and see all the things I'm grateful for and all the wonderful blessings I have in my life, and I still feel depressed, and it's frustrating. So I think all of these play into each other or play off of each other. So as I start to make those changes, I think it will help to change my attitude and my perspective as well. So I'm looking forward to that, and not that I want the added motivation, but I think I need it. So the point to that is that I did look in to see how much the prescription is going to be, and I'm at the point where I'm debating whether or not to call the doctor's office and see if they can't give me a different prescription or a different quantity, because again, she went with a 90-day supply, and I'm sure a 90-day supply with like however many refills, and I'm like, that's fantastic, except that 90 days with insurance, which I do not have insurance, is $129. I'm like, I'm not paying $129 for cholesterol medication that has a side effect that might actually cause pains in my legs, which I already have pain in my leg because it's still healing. I wish it was completely healed, but it isn't. It still hurts. It's more like one of those, feels more like a bruise, like when you bump it, you're like, oh, ow, that hurts, but if you don't touch it, it's okay. So it's getting there, but it's very slowly. So very frustrated with that. I'm like, so I need to call back and be like, I need a 30-day supply, so I might be able to afford it, but I still can't afford it right now because I didn't work for an entire week, so I have no extra money, and I spent all of my money this week. So this is not an okay situation for me. So it makes me all the more like, if I'm going to spend the money, I think I'm going to spend it on the nutritionist to try to figure out what foods I need to eat and work on exercising, because I need to do all of that anyway to avoid being pre-diabetic and to get my keep my blood pressure down. And of course, then she wants me to see like a regular doctor and talk to them about my being pre-diabetic and maybe take some medication to get that number down. And I'm like, I'm going to take medication so that I'm not pre-diabetic anymore. I'm not going to take medication. I'm not diabetic. I'm not taking medication. So I'm like, dude, this is nuts. It's like there's all these medications that can fix you. And I'm like, and the side effects of all those medications are going to do what? I don't know. And I mean, I grew up taking medications and maybe I've taken too many of them and I just feel like my body just doesn't know how to respond to stuff. And I also feel like taking all those medications just means that I'm going to stay the way that I am. And I think it's also a trigger because my biological mom did that every time she had a health problem or health issue. She was on a medication and then she would take medications for the side effects of her medications. And my older sister is doing that. She's having horrible side effects to the medication that she's taking, and she's taking other medications to stop the side effects of the medication that she's currently taking. And I'm like, stop taking the medication with the horrible side effects. But she's like, oh no, I trust my doctors and I'm going to keep taking this medication. I'm like, okay, I went through something similar and I don't have to take that medication anymore. So I think it'd be better if you just stop taking the medication. I don't think you need it. But she trusts her doctors and she's going with whatever they tell her. And then she's seeing other doctors to give her medication for the side effects that she's getting from. And I was like, oh my goodness. And then she keeps having all of these other issues that I'm like, those are side effects of the medication you're taking. And if you stop taking the medication, they'll go away. I know, because I had those problems on that medication and I stopped taking it and they went away. So, or they're going away. They're not completely gone, but they're definitely improved since I'm not taking that medication anymore. So it's just kind of like but that's my sister and that's her choice and that's her life. And I have to just love her and let her do what she wants to do. So I just remember my biological mom doing that, and I'm seeing my sister doing that, and all of the struggles that she's having with all of those medications. And I don't want to be that. I don't want to turn into my biological mom. I don't want to end up with so many medical problems and taking so many pills and seeing so many doctors and ending up on disability and not being able to take care of myself when I'm perfectly capable of taking care of myself now. So I've just not taken care of myself, which is why I'm in the situation I'm in. So I want to change that. So these are triggers for me personally. I don't know if they're triggers for any of you. I apologize if I'm triggering something for you, but this is kind of not that I'm against medicine and medication. I mean, I took the blood thinners because I knew I needed them, even though they had horrible side effects. And the one I took was horrible, and I was like, switch me to the other one, which was better, but still horrible. But I'm grateful to be off of blood thinners. I'm looking forward to being off of the aspirin, but I still have to take that for a while, the whole tapering down and making sure I don't get any new blood clots in the process because I'm still healing. So these are things that I'm aware of. And obviously, when I get infections that, require antibiotics, obviously I'm going to take antibiotics. I'm going to see doctors for it. But I've also learned that when you have cold or other things like that, you go see the doctor. I'm like, it's been 2 weeks. And they're like, well, it's just a cold. There's nothing we can do for it, but you can keep taking the over-the-counter stuff. And I'm like, I just wasted my time and money to come in here for you to tell me that. And another week later, I'm fine. So I just get impatient because I want to be better and not be sick anymore. But my body just is so used to being on antibiotics from growing up that sometimes I think it doesn't know how to respond or get better without it. Or maybe that's just, my body's just like the rest of me. I'm very slow. I do things in my own time frame and I am slower than everybody else, but I get there. I eventually get there. I get to where I'm going. It just takes me a lot longer than I imagine it will or than I want it to. So reminders of that. And so there is that. But I did things this week to try to take care of my body and my cold, and I chose not to work because I had the money in my savings to cover the stuff I had to cover. That's not really what I wanted to use it for. I had it set up for other stuff, and it's going to make this next week really stressful, and I'm going to have to work even though I know my cold isn't going to be gone because I still have a ton of bills to pay that would have been so much easier to pay if I'd worked this week. But which is the problem that I run into, where those negative thoughts creep in that I should be working, I should be doing this, I should be doing that. And I'm like, I got up and I did stuff a lot of days, and I I did laundry a few times. I did dishes a few times. I made food at home. I did not go out and buy stuff. The only thing I bought at the gas station was juice, orange juice and apple juice. Um, and I got the Minute Maid stuff that's like 100% juice and not the other stuff that has all the added preservatives and sugars and things in it. So, I mean, I'm trying to eat the healthier foods and things and just trying to get as much rest as I can. And my sleep is all over the place. It's kind of weird and wonky, but that happens. And not liking using my savings because I needed it or wanted it for other things, but grateful to have had it this week. And also struggling because I didn't make my videos because I had a cold, which is kind of annoying because I was sick the entire month of February and I made videos every single day. So being sick is not really an excuse for not making my videos, but I think I'm just kind of in that place where anything that's falling apart in my life, I just shut down. And I thought I'd gotten out of that, but I guess I'm back into that. I think, not that I want to blame everything on side effects of medication, but I tell you, when I get in that state of mind, it's hard to pull myself out of that. And I'm grateful that I do that a little bit, but it was hard not to beat myself up or be discouraged because I was choosing not to go to work because I'd get up and I would do stuff and I'm like, okay, I can do this. And then I would be like, and now I'm exhausted. That was like my 4 hours of energy for the day and I'm done because I'm sick. And I had to remind myself that I'm sick and it was okay to not do all the things that I wanted to do because I'm sick. And it was nice that I did do some things. I did go out. I did spend time with some friends. I did some social things. Probably shouldn't have. They probably wouldn't have appreciated if they knew I had a cold. But I am really grateful that I could, just drink water, and I ended up not coughing or doing any of that stuff that exhibited having a cold. So I'm like, nobody knows. It's just the back of my throat's kind of scratchy. It feels like it's all dried out. But it's not really bad unless I lay down and then I just start coughing and hacking. And it's like, oh. And of course, the sinus pressure that goes with that, which is no fun. But I've had way worse colds. And I also know that if I'd gone to work and pushed myself, that it would have made my cold symptoms worse. It would have been way worse and taken longer to work through. So I'm grateful that I didn't push myself, even though I really wanted to. So a little bit behind on making my videos because of that, and I apologize. But I was trying not to push myself too hard, but at the same time trying to find the balance in taking care of myself, which I'm not very good at. I'm still learning what's good and what's not, and trying to get the right amount of rest and trying to figure out stuff. And of course, now I get to stress this next week because I didn't work all week. So that's going to be interesting. But I know that God is going to bless me and help me because he always has and he always does. So I know that he always will. And I am grateful for that. And I am grateful for the assistance and help that I got this week to do what I needed to, physically, spiritually, emotionally. It's not been a horrible week, actually, but it has been a test in having to take care of myself and setting boundaries and choosing whether or not to work and really struggling to not beat myself up for choosing not to work. That's been the hardest one for me. And not there's anything wrong with choosing not to work, but because I didn't feel good. I think most people probably appreciated the fact that I didn't show up to work coughing and hacking and whatever, blowing my nose all the time. But they're like, hey, we're so glad you didn't come to work and share this cold with us. So, and of course, when I did go out and I was around people, I was just praying that I didn't get them sick because I didn't want to get other people sick. But I am grateful that I could still go out and do things and meet my, at least social, emotional commitments. And I feel like that kind of helped buoy me up just a little bit, made me feel a little bit good about that. Maybe also a little bit, bad because I'm like, I know people right now, it seems like are totally afraid of anybody that's sick of anything. And it's like, oh my gosh. I remember a day and age not too long ago where it's like you had a cold and like, that's not a reason to stay home from work. You get your butt in here. We don't care that you're sick. We need your body here. We need the work done. So go ahead and spread the germs. It will make us all get better, build up our immune systems. And some people have really good immune systems and they're like, oh, that's cold. It's just going to bounce right off of us, like Jello, just bounce right off. Nothing. And then there's other people that are, like me and they're like, Stay away from me when you're sick because I will get whatever you have. I'm like, no, actually, I think I kind of, when I take my vitamins and I do that really well, then my immune system is pretty good and it fights off most stuff. But when I don't, I've noticed when I stop taking my vitamins because I ran out of them and I chose not to purchase new ones for, probably about a month. And the funny thing is I went to the store and I just bought vitamins, the vitamin C and my multivitamins. And the next day I was sick and I was like, I needed to have been taking these this past week so that I wouldn't have gotten sick. But it's just funny to me because when I'm taking care of myself and I'm taking my vitamins and things, my body is buoyed up and I am nice and healthy and nothing penetrates. But once something penetrates, it's just like I'm down for the count. My body's like, we don't know what to do with this. We're sick. We should fight something off. We'll figure it out eventually. So that is my lot in life. So I'm like, hey, I'm gonna have a cold for about 2 weeks, unless I try to work, and then it might be 3 or 4 weeks. So I tried not to work for a week in hopes that it would go away in a week. But even though it doesn't feel like horrible, I haven't had horrible symptoms. I've been able to sleep most of the time, or at least for 3 or 4 hour increments before I wake up coughing, which has been nice. But it's still, I mean, it's keeping the symptoms under control, like any cold medicine at the from the over-counter cold medicine. But it's not making my cold go away. It's still going to take its 2 to 3 weeks to run its course before it goes away, because that's just what my body does, which is really annoying. So I'm rambling about me and my crazy cold and doctors and medicine and all of that, but this is my body. This is my life this week. And I think it's just a lot of tests mentally to be nice to myself, to say nice things to myself, to remind myself, as odd as that sounds, that I'm sick. So it's okay to not do all the things on my to-do list every day. It's okay to not go to work because I'm sick. And these are things that just seem like they're not okay in the back of my mind. And so I have all these negative thoughts or these, stressing out about how am I going to do this or do that if I don't go to work, and I have to go to work, and then I don't go to work, and then it's like this negative cycle of depression that I have to fight and battle every time that I get sick. And I wish that I wouldn't do that. So that has been my struggle for this week. But like I said, I am grateful for the blessings that I have had. I am bummed that there goes all of my savings and I get to start over and stress next week about my finances. But, I think maybe that's why God blessed me with all the extra last week, because he knew I would need it this week. So I'm grateful for that. And just trusting that things will work out in the coming weeks and months, and that things will get better as long as I continue to try. And grateful for the added motivation that I need to figure out foods and things to eat that are going to help my body to heal itself, to get my cholesterol under control, hopefully with diet and exercise, because I really can't afford that medication, or I'm going to have to take different medication. And I'm not opposed to taking cholesterol medication if that's what it takes to get my cholesterol under control, but I am willing to try the diet and exercise first. Especially since the cost right now is kind of inhibiting to me at the moment. So, gonna see what happens.